Well, thank you so much for being here with me once again in another episode of A Legacy of Love, Un Legado de Amor, which we have someone very special today that I've been knowing for quite a long time, and she's very special. But I would like her to introduce herself and share a little bit about what she does, and then we'll continue with some other questions that we have.
Great. Hi, Analee. Thank you for having me. I'm Lyn Skibell, and I am the owner of Skibell Fine Jewelry in Dallas, Texas. I've become a jeweler over since about 2017, 2018. And I run a jewelry store in Dallas. We have a website as well. And so that's what I do.
Wow, that's pretty fun, very
Yeah,
exciting, and you get to meet a lot of people, I would assume.
I do. I meet a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. What is it that you like the most in your job?
Well, I think at heart, I'm a creative person. I know at heart, I'm a creative person. So anytime I get to really create something, I've done a lot this last year, especially in redesign, custom design. A lot of people are getting things handed down to them that they may want to change into something that's more their taste and their liking. And so, to me, working with these, especially the young couples who are getting married, and maybe the most fun really is taking something that came from an heirloom piece, like a grandfather or grandmother, and then making that piece into something that's going to last another lifetime with another couple. So, in the creative process, I think that's the most fun that I have.
Wow, that sure sounds very interesting and very fun and very creative at the same time.
Mhm.
But as you know, my podcast is about all these challenges that we go through in life. And I think that we've all gone through that. I believe that not only my story, but I know that there's a lot of other stories out there of so many different background settings, losing someone. In my case, it was being between life and death several times, being in a forced relationship, losing my first child unborn 5 months along, and so many other things. And I truly know and I believe that if it wouldn't have been because of my mother's foundation in Christ, I don't think I would have made it. And her teaching me that allowed me to decide whether if I was going to hold on to the Lord or if I was just going to let myself go. And I'm so grateful that she taught me right and that I was willing to follow that path that she taught me at a very young age. And I would assume that you've also had to face some challenges, hard times in your life, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. I guess I go back to losing my father at the age of 16. He was killed by a drunk driver. He was 42 years old. I just, it still blows me away that he was so young. So he was my person, that was my first person. And I guess losing him at that age, was pretty pivotal in my life. And I would say, um, I didn't have a lot of guidance and I kind of had to raise myself. And actually, my mother was a very loving, kind person. She came from a lot of abuse and, um, she had a drinking problem. She had mental issues. And so I don't think I really ever got to be a child in a way. Um, and then, I made it through college. I went to nursing school. Wasn't something I really wanted to do, but again, I wanted to pursue creative arts, and my mother was not a fan of that. But ultimately, I met my husband in 2007 through friends, and we had a very happy marriage for about 10 years, just a little over 10 years. And I lost him, and then I managed to sort of pick up the business and keep going. Um, I had a golden retriever at the time. Her name was Sassy, and she was the love of my life. And in that process, and everyone went through COVID together, right? That was a challenge for everybody. But I lost my dog, and then keeping the store open, I had a partner that you know well, and his name was Clyde, and he was my partner. And when I went forward with the store, I said to Clyde, my partner, I was like, okay, are you in? Are you in? And we have both decided, kind of given ourselves a timeline for being in the store and continuing the work there. And then he passed away about a year ago of the same of cancer as well. So, since my husband got sick in 2017, I would say I have been at the lowest of lows, and faith, my prayer group, my friends, people like yourself, or um, other, other clients who became friends, people that have supported me, and it's just amazing what God does through other people. And and this year especially, I think I'm kind of coming up for air, having lost Clyde. And I'm thinking, I think for the longest time I just felt like it was all about me. And I know I have worn people out sometimes, but boy, people will stick with you. And sometimes it's not the people you think that will stick with you or really lift you up or hold you up. And that's been the most surprising to me. Of course, I have my core group of friends. I have my my prayer group that I meet with. And but then there's people, I call them surprises, these happy surprises where I go, wow. And they've taught me so much. They've really taught me. And I try very hard to emulate that and pay it forward.
What do you mean when you say happy surprises?
Like
Uh,
a happy surprise is like a person. There's several people um that I didn't know that well, that were maybe friends of Charles or friends of Clyde's. And they took it upon themselves when they saw that I was at a really very, very, very low spot, to lean in and lean into a perfect stranger, someone that they had no, besides sort of a connection to Charles or to Clyde. Um, and then just for them to come and lift me up and support me has been just huge for me. I mean, and amazing.
yes, I think that sometimes we don't know, but at times I could say that because I've gone through that. I feel that God sends people to help us, uh, and we don't even know what their mission is, but eventually we figure it out why they're
Yeah.
coming and what the reasons are, and they're helping us through this hardship, and it's for a reason. And I think that God works in very mysterious ways. And I definitely didn't know all that about losing your father at such a young age, and so much loss and so much pain. Definitely, you didn't have a choice. You had to mature. And it happened at a very young age. You were just 16 and you had to immediately go and take care of so many things. I would assume that maybe even being part of arrangements of a funeral, which I had to do as well at just about to be 15.
Yeah. When I read the book, I was struck by a lot of the similarities and that was one of the things that I know, I had told you, like when I first got the book, I kind of had skimmed it and read it pretty quickly, and it was at a very tumultuous time for me, so I really couldn't focus. And then recently read it again, and I was just I was struck by that. I was struck by a lot of the similarities, even I think I told you that I was in the earthquake in Mexico in the 80s, which was a really um, um I don't know even know what to say. It's an awesome event, not in a good way, but awesome to be involved in something like that and see the earth move. I mean, the earth moved, and you always feel grounded and solid in earth. But boy, when I read the book and I read some of your passages like that, it was. And I remember texting you and telling you what an amazing some of the things that you'd experienced that I'd experienced.
Yes, it is amazing. And sometimes, as I said, God brings people in our lives, in our path for a reason. And we didn't even know that we had so many things in common. And the more you were reading, the more you were trying to, process maybe still that loss that you had, because there's still always that memory that we carry of those loved ones. And there might be still, or maybe at the time there was, I don't know, that part of you that is still healing, and you're trying to find yourself in a better place, because still there's times that I still remember my mother, and oh wow, I still miss her, and I still have those thoughts, of the what if this would have never happened, and what if we would have found the way to help her. And but I understand that that what if is just you're still mourning. In my case, I still at times find that moment inside, even though it's been so many years, mourning that what if, where would I be? My life would have been very different. I think that we've had those thoughts sometimes, and I know that there has to be people here that are going to listen, and they're going to definitely connect and feel extremely connected with your story and my story. And they need hope. Maybe they're in that process that they just lost a loved one. Losing Clyde for me was very difficult, because I would talk to him, and we would talk about a lot of personal things. It was not something that I planned or I was expecting. It was just very natural, and we became very close. And
Hmm.
that doesn't happen just with people, just ordinary people. We had a special connection, and I still think of him, and I still hurt, and I still uh, want to, I wish it was not true. And I still want to run to the jewelry store and hope that, there was something wrong, or maybe it was a bad dream, because I still hurt and I still think of him. He was an amazing person. He had an amazing heart, very humble guy. He had just so much to offer, and he was still very young.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was very young. He was he brought so much life and so much joy to people, and people just come by, and even still right now it's a year. He was a year past in September, and some people don't come into the store but every 2 or 3 years, and they don't know. And still, the other day two people came in, and they came in to see Clyde, and I recognized them, and I thought they were coming to see me, and I was so excited. And they didn't know. They did not know that Clyde had passed. And so for me, since that's been happening to me since Charles passed in 2019, I still have people that didn't know Charles passed. And so then now it's like, Clyde was very private. He went very inward, and Charles did too, actually. Two really outward guys went very inward in their journey, you know, to the other side. And yeah, Clyde was he was special. And I miss him, and I miss Charles, and and I think about Christmas and holidays and things like that, where, even back to my dad, he made a holiday special, and Charles made holiday special, and certainly Clyde made holiday special in his little bow ties and his, red flannel pants with Christmas trees all over them or whatever. But it's hard to lose people like that who bring so much life into your life.
I agree. I agree. And I know that there's someone listening right now and they understand and they connect with us. What would you say? How have you been able, because just like I have, which I will share what I've done personally, how have you been able to cope with this? And because people out there might be there and they might be stuck and maybe they just lost, maybe a couple of days or a couple of weeks, a loved one. What would you tell them? How have you coped their losses?
I would say, sometimes not well. Sometimes I have not coped well. And I, I guess in retrospect, I wish, if I could go back, I would have taken a little better care of myself. However that looked, whether it be, um, just getting more sort of mental, emotional, spiritual connection. Um, and I would say, I would say to wait. Like if this is happening to you right now, um, I made huge decisions in the worst time of my whole life. I made absolutely huge decisions, and people would say, you need to wait a year or whatever. And I was like, I was so moving so fast or wanting to run from the pain, I think, or dull the pain that I made a lot of decisions that in retrospect, I might have made differently if I'd have just stopped and gotten quiet and listened to that still voice within me and made decisions. So it's been really, I'm not gonna lie, it has been super hard and only, by the grace of God go I, they say, but I think I'm still coping. And yet, like you said, I'm still mourning. And it'll be 6 years for Charles, but I think you have to stop and wait. There's a whole big flurry of things that happen. And then if you could just stop and wait and think before you make huge, sweeping life decisions. If I could go back, that would be one thing I would do.
Yes, most definitely. I agree. And in my case, I ended up doing the same thing. For me, even till now, Um, well, I have several things that I've always done. One of them is that I do recognize that the way that I've been able to cope with her death and the all the ones that I've lost is staying busy. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe why I became, and I could confess that I became a workaholic, that I could work and work and work and work all the way till midnight or even later and wake up the next morning and continue to work to occupy my thoughts, to occupy my mind. So that way, that pain, even though it's there, it's kind of asleep because I'm so occupied. But of course, there's holidays, there's birthdays, there's Mother's Day, there's those special days in the calendar that I know that even though I'm occupied, I will have the opportunity during the day regardless if I'm wanting it or not, that I will stop and I will remember. And there's a lot of memories that I have with her, and the way that I keep her legacy alive. There's so many things that she left me. The love for the kitchen. She loved to cook.
Yeah.
She loved to bake. That's why I ended up doing this cookbook. That actually today I got a call from one of my cousins, and he said, "Oh my goodness." I'm so grateful for that cookbook because I always wanted to make Mexican meatballs. And it was easy. The recipe was not bad. We went through every step, but we didn't add we add actually a special cheese, like kind of like string cheese inside. So you chop that meatball and it's like so much flavor. It has rice on the stew, but then it also has cheese inside of the meatball. So he said it was delicious. Oh my gosh. What a legacy that you have, and the story behind each and one of those recipes. where did it come from, what country, and the tips and tricks. And you have so much that has so many pictures, and it inspires you of wanting to cook and bake. Oh my. And I said, just hearing that for me, it's already, inspiring. I'm already grateful to know that my mother still lives and that I will continue carrying on her legacy with these books, with these cookbooks in both languages, and all the other books that I'm working on, like a devotional, and I'm working on a lot of other things. But knowing that I could always bring my own story, and she will continue living through the kitchen, through the baking, through me. And as I continue sharing her stories, as I continue bringing, my kids and telling them the stories, the experiences that I used to have with her, there's so many things. And I'm like, okay, she's always going to continue being here with me, even though she's not here physically. But I know that with all these wonderful things that I've done, I'm still keeping her legacy going. And for me, that is just unbelievable. And it's just amazing. I'm so grateful to be able to honor her that way. And also, that helps me to heal and to keep me occupied. But most of all, I want to make sure that I preserve her legacy, because for me it means just so much to be able to carry her still now and for the following generations. And I'm like you, I would have wanted to kind of stay calm and wait, but because of my age and because of the responsibilities that I didn't ask for, but they just came along with her loss. And being
Hmm.
the oldest and having brothers, but I'm the oldest and the only girl, I had to take a different role. And I lost my childhood. I lost that time in my life. And I know you understand where I'm coming from, but that
Yes.
instead of being a teenager and enjoying life, I ended up immediately, which I've always been that way, very, very mature for my age,
Mhm.
very much aware and awake, even though I'm much of an introvert, but that's just the way I see the world. I'm better at observing. I don't need the attention, but at the same time, I knew as a little girl that I was very mature. I was very much a lot older than my age. Losing my mother, it's like I became a completely full grown adult from one day to the other. And I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it. It was extremely painful.
Right.
And the pain, the confusion, the why, you don't know what's coming, in the near future. How am I going to be able to move on? And my mom was mom and father. My dad was a very absent father. So it was hard. Now, finally, there is that relationship with him, which I'm glad. I'm very thankful for that. But it did take a very long time of my life. So I had to find a safe place, a happy place, which it wasn't easy. It was about keeping myself focused in work, in school, in a drill team and activities after school. It was about working, keeping myself completely occupied. And I bet that maybe that's how your life ended too.
Yeah, I just took off and did, I was always a bit self-destructive, frankly, especially after my dad died. And I went into shock, and I actually didn't cry for a very long time. Finally, just really did not make an attempt, but I really did not want to be here on this earth. And it took me from 16 to 27. I remember just like breaking down because I would just never, like you said something about a dream. I always was like thinking it's a dream and he's going to come back and like he's, in the CIA or like I made these stories up, these serious, really involved stories where I really
Wow.
never accepted that he was gone. Um, I didn't get to see him. So, because of the way he was hurt. And
Uh-huh.
so, I ran. I just ran and ran from the pain and all of that. And I would say I probably did a lot of that with Charles too. And then Clyde was there. and Clyde was my partner, and so it's been a lot of loss. A lot of people have loss. I'm not saying, I'm the only one, but I did there's something about this lifetime, I guess, that or this life with that God wants me to learn about losing, because I have lost the majority of the most special people in my life.
I
And
definitely understand you. And when you said you fell in a shock, um, before my mom passes, I did cry a lot in the hospital. I was running and crying and hollering and yelling, and I was out of control, but I was on medicine. They kept me on medicine after because I could not keep myself together. So after I knew that she had passed, I felt like you. I was in complete shock, and I wouldn't talk. Is there something you want to say in your mother's service, in her funeral? And I can't do it now. I can't do it. I can't do it. That's what I would say. I can't do it right now. It's too
mhm,
much. And I was in shock. And I did the same pattern that you did when you're right now that you're talking about this. I'm like, I didn't know that you also went through that. I went through a phase when I was in high school that I would hide that part of me. I would hide the fact that I had lost my mother. I had pretended or made myself up in my own thoughts that she's going to come back someday. No, this is not really happening. This is not true. So when people would ask me, I would try to avoid that conversation. I would just turn around and turn the page on something else. Oh no, well, we're going to be doing this. And so I knew what that was about. That was a part of me that was not ready to share, was not ready to open up. And I went like that for many years. My grandparents would not allow us to really talk and mourn and cry. So I kept myself very private. And I've always been very private. So I understand where you're coming from. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that about you, that
mhm,
I ended up doing the same thing. So
yeah.
we have these people listening here. What would be your last message to them? What would you like to tell them, Lyn? Because we both have been there.
Yeah, I would just say find a way to experience the grief, in whatever way, because I think tamping it down, and not dealing with it, I feel like already right now I've lost a lot of time in my life because I numbed it and I wouldn't deal with how sad I was. In fact, I want to cry right now. Um, but I would just say, get with someone, find whatever your path is, if it's a counselor, if it's a minister, if it's a group, or whatever, get in touch with your grief and move through it in whatever way, because I feel like just now, after 6 years, almost, 5.5 years, I can start to move forward with my life. And if I would have perhaps done it in a more healthy manner, um, I might have had more time, more happy time.
Yes, I agree with you. And definitely I think that we need to talk and we need to share our feelings, our emotions with someone that we trust, a friend, someone that we know that we could rely on and they will be there with us and for us. So I'm very honored today to have you on my podcast. And well, I could just say that I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm very grateful and honored to have had you on this podcast and have you share your story because it is very powerful, and we both somehow follow that with a same parallel of a loss. And I could just say that this has made you stronger, and you're an amazing lady. And thank you so much for being here with me. It's such an honor and privilege to have you today on my podcast, A Legacy of Love.
Wow, you're amazing, Analee. You're really, really good. This is your gift and your path. So thank you for having me.
Yes, well, thank you too. And I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.
Okay.